Look closely. A house with torn blinds. The address is real, the documents signed. A name, a signature. On the kitchen counter, a single cup. In the bedroom, a bare mattress. Fingerprints were found, but not hers. The lease existed, but the owner swore he never rented the place at all. Did she ever live here? No one can say for certain. Her phone was active during the night, but not in the areas where she was seen. The name in the rental contract appears in 3 separate episodes of the case, and yet in national records, that person never existed. The payment trail led to an account closed within 2 weeks. Do you believe in coincidences? Do you believe in a lease without a tenant? In a disappearance where every detail feels staged in advance? This happened just 1 week ago, one of the strangest vanishings of 2025. And perhaps one of the most carefully constructed. If you have ever been to the outskirts of Bundaberg, you know the feeling, as if the city ends not in streets, but in silence. Small houses sagging into low ground, fences sinking, patches of yellow grass, plastic buckets left on porches. Tourists rarely come here, locals too busy to notice a face, unless it makes noise. The street where that house stood had no name. Only a number. Concrete marker, 29 BI. Inside, the address of record for Phoebe J. Bishop, 17 years old. But the house itself looked as though no one had opened the curtains in years. This house became the first true clue, not in the usual sense, not a blood-stained object, not a discarded item in the brush, but structural. As investigators called it, a clue against the very idea of life. There was no trace of routine, no smell of food, no prints of shoes, no photographs, no objects that caught the eye, only silence, trash, and trash not fresh at that. The house gave the impression of a place awaiting demolition. And yet, in the housing registry for February 2025, it was clearly listed. Tenant, Phoebe J. Bishop, 17, living by proxy authorization, and in her school form before vacation, the same address, 29 BI, Morton Fields. On the side, a signature, straight, steady, not like her handwriting in notes to her friends, but neat, formal, correct, accepted because it looked official, and because it was filled out exactly as required. No one asked questions. Phoebe's disappearance was officially registered on March 4th, 2 days after she failed to appear in class, 3 days after her phone stopped signaling. At first, little concern. Teenagers are unpredictable, but anxiety grew. Her family didn't know where she was. When her mother, Alice Bishop, drove to the address listed in the documents, she found the house. No one answered. The neighbors offered nothing. A woman on the porch next door said only, "There was a girl maybe. I don't know whose. Haven't seen her in a while." The mother called police. Routine report. Check address of missing minor. An officer arrived in 23 minutes. Knocked on the door. Pressed the door buzzer. Out of order. Walked the side of the house. No bike in the yard. No table. Not even a garbage bin. Only a crumbling wall where brush had cracked the concrete. After 10 minutes, a detective was called. Half an hour later, they received permission to force entry. Inside, it was strange, not frightening, but artificially empty. First, the floors. Clean, not freshly washed, simply unused. No grit, no scuffs, no dust pushed beneath furniture. In the kitchen, 2 chairs, but the table sagged, warped, laminate peeling. In the corner, a small electric burner, unused. The sink held a single cup, no other dishes. The refrigerator, empty, not expired pizza, not spoiled milk, just nothing, as if placed for display. In the bedroom, a thin mattress on the floor, no sheets. On the wall, a nail hole where something had once hung. On the window, torn blinds. On the sill, an inch of black tape. And nothing more. No clothing, no notebooks, no trace of daily life. The police report read, No signs of forced entry, no evidence of struggle, no possessions indicating active residence of the minor subject. And it was in that house, where no one truly lived, that the file was opened. Case PIT-0503. Missing person, Phoebe Bishop. The second such file in the county within 2 years. The first ended with a body found after 19 days. This one was only beginning. When investigators reviewed the rental file, they found an anomaly. The lease was not signed by Phoebe herself, but by a woman named Tammy Hall. Unknown in all databases. No tax record, no matching ID. The phone number listed was disconnected. The email address had been created 4 days before the contract signed and deleted 2 days after. The question arose, if Phoebe had not rented the house, then who had? And if she had, why was not a single belonging left behind? In following days, police re-entered the house. They searched for residual traces, hair, fibers, prints. 5 incomplete fingerprints were found, 2 on the cup, 1 on a light switch, 1 on the door, 1 on the inside bedroom window, only 1 partially matched, compared with archived records at her school from visa processing. Match rate, 67%. Insufficient for certainty. Within police reports, the line was repeated. Either everything was wiped, or she never actually lived here. Neighbors contradicted each other. One said, "Saw a girl once, maybe twice. Blonde, I think, but I was drunk then, didn't really see." Another claimed, "No one lived there, just a couple of guys I didn't know. Car outside one night, not local." Phoebe's phone last pinged at 3:27 a.m. on March 2nd, 2 days before her disappearance was formally reported. The tower, Sector 3B, covering Morton Fields. Not a precise address, but within 800 meters of the house at 29 BI. And so, the case began. Not with a body, not with a scream, not with a torn piece of clothing, but with a house where someone had staged life, without living it. Formally, everything was present. In fact, nothing made sense. And the deeper investigators went, the more one phrase was repeated in police offices. Too clean, too correct, and therefore not real. Phoebe Bishop, 17 years old, born in Rockhampton, moved to Bundaberg at 9. An older brother, Jake, an electrician in a nearby district. Her mother, Alice Bishop, nurse in a private clinic. Her father left the family when Phoebe was 11, but remained in contact. No poverty, no wealth, no police, no scandal. A quiet house with a blue fence and magnets on the fridge. The kind of family people later describe. They were normal, just like everyone else. But there was one detail that neither her mother nor her friends considered alarming at first. Phoebe had begun to draw away, not in conflict. She didn't argue, didn't throw things, didn't run. She simply withdrew, gradually erasing herself from everyday life, without making an event of it. At school, she went unnoticed. Grades, average, never skipped, but never engaged. She liked the back row, by the window, headphones on, listening to lo-fi, post-rock. Her playlists were filled with tracks unknown even to Spotify. Friends called her distant but kind. No aggression, but no intimacy either. When her desk partner, Claire, was out sick for 2 weeks, Phoebe never asked why. She simply moved her seat closer to the door, not out of anger, just as if she no longer needed to be near anyone. Other strangenesses followed, quiet ones. In January of 2025, 2 months before she vanished, she began silently deleting accounts. First Facebook, then Instagram. She never used Telegram. She stayed in WhatsApp, but replied to almost no one, except for one thread, a chat with a girl under the nickname Autumn Watcher. Over 200 messages. That contact would later become central to the investigation. But for now, unknown. Her mother recalled, there was a time she came home and simply sat, kitchen chair, phone off, until it was dark. I thought, it's just age. She wants to be alone. We never fought. We never had screaming in our house. And yet Phoebe didn't seem lost. She did chores, cooked sometimes, walked the neighbor's dog, worked weekends at the bookstore. Sundays, took the bus to her grandmother. No depression, no erratic changes. But, as her aunt later said, it wasn't pain, it was silence. She was stepping back, politely, almost tenderly, but firmly. One of the few with whom she stayed in touch was a classmate, Evan. He remembered her as a little strange, but honest. They shared graphic design club. He recalled she made posters with almost no words, just geometry, isolated houses, windows. One poster showed a house surrounded by emptiness. The caption read, "Nobody's inside, but lights are on." That poster has never been found. In mid-February, Phoebe told her mother she was tired of living in one house. No emotion, no demand, no ultimatum. Simply a statement. "I've been offered temporary housing. It's quieter. I'll arrange everything myself." Alice did not argue. Her daughter seemed certain. But in hindsight, that was the first key. Phoebe was not running, not fighting. She was quietly turning her life off. When she left, there wasn't even a quarrel. One evening, she simply did not return. The next morning, a message arrived. "I'm fine, don't worry, I just need some quiet. See you on the weekend." The family knew where she was listed. They had an address. The paperwork was in order, but from that moment, she was already out of reach, because her disappearance did not begin on March 2nd. It began long before. When investigators began to examine who had actually rented the house at 29 BI, clarity vanished. No one in the chain was ever real. Everything about Phoebe's residence there was registered, but never confirmed. Signed, but not existing. The rental had gone through a private realtor database, an unofficial but technically legal network for cheap houses and weekend properties in rural Queensland. The system did not require in-person contact. Leases could be filed remotely, authenticated only by scanned documents and bank transfer. The landlord, a woman named Tammy Hall. She provided a passport copy, a transfer receipt, and a phone number. The problem: the phone disconnected 36 hours after activation. The passport was false or unregistered in citizenship databases. The payment came from an account opened 6 days before transfer and shut down 3 weeks later. And most significantly, the actual owner of the house knew nothing. Randy Mitchell, an elderly man living in a nearby suburb, confirmed ownership. The property had belonged to his late brother. He admitted he hadn't set foot inside in 100 years and had always planned to demolish it. Faced with the lease, he said simply, "That's not my handwriting, and I don't know who Tammy Hall is." Thus, the house was rented without the owner's knowledge, through fabricated documents, by a phantom account. All of it, legal on paper, because the system demanded no live identification, a transaction without faces. And it led investigators straight into a vacuum, a place with no real witnesses at all. The only anchors left, one partial print, and one faint ping of Phoebe's phone at night, March 2nd, within 800 meters of the house. Neighbors? Contradictory. One said he saw a girl with a backpack early March. Another insisted nobody lived there, just a car one night, strangers, not locals. A woman across the road swore she saw a tall man at the window. Another dismissed it. Teenagers hung around there all the time. Who knows who it was? And so the case began, not with her, but with noise, with shadows. With nothing verifiable, everything in place on paper, and nothing aligned in reality. Among the neighbors, one account drew the most attention. From Harry Doyle, 42, unemployed, prior arrest, drunk driving. He lived 2 houses down, spoke often, freely. He told investigators, "One evening a car pulled up, gray, old, near dusk. Passenger looked like a girl. Hood up. She got out, opened the door, then both went inside. But later, only the man came out, not her." Investigators pressed for timing. Harry could not recall clearly. "Maybe a week before they started looking for her. I don't keep track of days, but I wrote the plate. Had a camera on my gate. Only the flash drive died." At the house, police later found a fragment of recorder tape. Broken, unreadable, but his statement added something critical. A car. Gray. Old. Possibly no plates, or else a number no one could confirm. And another detail. The main door had once been forced. Not recently, long before. A hinge had been replaced crudely. Inside, signs of repair, never finished. Someone, at some earlier point, had tried entry, and possibly the same someone later arranged the lease through Tammy Hall. Not to live, but to use the structure. Temporary access, a place to place someone, and then vanish. System logs filled in the rest. Lease created between February 2nd and 6th. Funds transferred via crypto exchange registered in Sydney. In application, a second identity appeared, Laura Marcello. Contact, a P.O. box, closed 9 days later. No such individual exists in Queensland records, not a name, a mask. By this stage, investigators understood this was not simply a girl who rented a place and left. This was a platform constructed with precise timing, with false names, with forged documentation, and Phoebe either agreed to step into it or was lured beneath a pretext. But the question remained unchanged. Why, in the house supposedly rented for her, was there not a single thing of hers? In the case of Phoebe Bishop, the most chilling truth was not that no one saw her vanish, but that her final days looked as though she had been preparing to vanish, carefully, without trace, or worse, that someone had prepared it for her, wiped clean. The last 72 hours before Phoebe disappeared were rebuilt piece by piece. Neither from family nor from her phone did investigators obtain a complete timeline. Only fragments. February 29th, Saturday. Phoebe texted her mother a short message. "I'm fine. A bit noisy here, but I'll manage. I'll stop by tomorrow for a few things." She never came. On Sunday, no one saw her. That day, a grocery store camera 3 blocks from 29 BI filmed a girl in a hoodie. Her face turned from the lens. She entered, bought 1 bottle of water and a pack of gum. Paid cash. The walk, the backpack, matched the one Phoebe still carried from school. Police noted, even if it was not her, the subject acted as if avoiding any digital trace. Later that evening at 1943, a 1-minute call was made from her number, placed to an unknown subscriber, P. Wallace, a person never located. The duration, 66 seconds, neither content nor second location traceable. But it happened. The signal tower, Sector 3B, covering Morton Fields, the area of the house. After that, silence. March 1st, Sunday. No new activity. Social media. Quiet. Phone stopped transmitting location. Google account. No app logins. Not YouTube, not Chrome, not Gmail. Nothing. As if the device was shut down or handed to someone who knew how to mute it completely. But there was one detail, held back from the press. When Phoebe's phone finally went dark, an hour before, it connected once to an unsecured Wi-Fi router, belonging to an auto garage 4 blocks from 29 BI. The shop was closed, but the router still broadcast. Log showed one access at 03:07 a.m. Device ID beginning PHB A25. Phoebe's exact phone model. The connection lasted 4 minutes. No browser, no data pulled, possibly just a check, whether network existed. Monday, March 2nd. 06:44 a.m., surveillance camera recorded a gray sedan leaving the area of 29 BI. Weather, overcast. Image, grainy. Vehicle appeared in early 2000s Honda Civic. On the passenger seat, a silhouette. Face obscured. No license plate legible. The car moved south. City surveillance never captured it again. 4 days later, police would find a similar vehicle in an industrial zone 14 kilometers away. That is a separate chapter. Back at the house, on return inspection, investigators concluded the place had been prepared for inspection itself. Everything that might suggest haste was absent. No crumpled clothes, no half-eaten food, no drag of dirt. Even the dust lay uniformly, as if no one had lived there, and yet no one had rushed to leave. The only anomaly, the stained lid beneath the sink, covering an old vent. Inside, a small plastic box. Contents: a faded badge from a clothing store in the next suburb. A pack of cigarettes discontinued since 2018. A fragment of newspaper dated 2004. The very issue containing an article on a girl's disappearance, eerily similar in scenario. None of these items belonged to Phoebe. No prints were on them. For investigators, they were either planted, meant to confuse, or distractions. False artifacts of a story. By 2025, such cases were no longer uncommon, but familiarity did not make them less disturbing. Phoebe Bishop's vanishing brought no violence, no screams, no struggle. It was silence, signals switched off, windows shut, presence erased. One officer said, "It's as if all the labels were stripped away. Everything lies where it should, but there is no scent of life, not one." A journalist asked, "What does that mean?" The reply, "Either she left by choice, or someone made it look as if she did." Without one camera frame, Phoebe's disappearance might have collapsed to 3 lines. She left. She did not return. She was never seen again. But there was one frame, blurred, grainy, taken from the wrong angle, and it became its own track of investigation. Did she leave alone? March 3rd, 06:44 a.m., parking surveillance at Bundaberg Regional Airport. A gray sedan pulls into the short-stop zone. The driver never exits. 1 minute later, the passenger door opens. A figure steps out. Height, around 160. Dark clothing, hood raised, sneakers visible, backpack on the shoulder, a shadow across the face. The figure walked toward the terminal entrance. The camera did not lose them. Only the back and hands were visible. 20 seconds later, they stepped out of frame. That moment shifted the case. Formally, Phoebe was not recorded on any flight that day. No booking in her name, no trace from her phone number, no payment from her bank card, nothing. But at 06:49 inside the terminal, a camera captured a figure resembling the one from the sedan. The face remained obscured. The person paused near the entrance to the restroom. 3 minutes later, left toward the outer doors. Never approached check-in. Investigators compared timestamps. The timing matched. The walk, the clothing. Assessment. Possible identity not confirmed. And the conclusion, if it was Phoebe, she was not trying to fly anywhere. After leaving the terminal, the figure was never captured again. Not on highway cameras, not in car parks. No one seen approaching them. The gray sedan from which they exited departed 5 minutes later. Plates unreadable, covered or caked in dirt. Cameras recorded only the turn south toward the industrial district. Police traced the traffic. Over the next 6 hours, 14 sedans matched the description. Only 2 were later found. 1 became a lead. That airport frame gave journalists their headline. Perhaps Phoebe left on her own. But investigators remained cautious, because behind that single clip lay 3 immovable contradictions. 1. She never bought a ticket. Across all routes, 0 bookings, no e-ticket, no agency reservation, no desk purchase. She never even approached check-in. 2. She left no financial trace, no bank transactions, no mobile app logins, no withdrawal attempts. The final record of money, 1 bottle of water, in cash. 3. If she planned to disappear, why this way? No luggage, no card, no preparation, no farewell, no explanation, nothing resembling flight. Police reviewed all passengers who cleared security the morning of March 3rd. By weight, by height, by description. No one matched. The theory of a ticket under another name failed as well. There were no unidentified passengers. Formally, no one flew as Phoebe. And yet, the paradox. The figure was in the terminal, but did nothing there. One working theory. A meeting. Investigators checked all arrivals that morning. Flights from Brisbane, from Sydney, from Mount Isa. One woman, arriving on a Gold Coast flight, was seen on camera near the entrance. She sat tensely for half an hour, then left, alone. When located later, she explained, "I was waiting for a friend. She never arrived. She canceled her flight." The friend's name, Laura Hall. Detectives asked for a photo. She produced it, a young woman, mid-20s, looking strikingly like an older version of Phoebe. The records were checked. No such person exists. No license, no school files, no hospital entries. The image could have been fabricated, or it was Tammy Hall, or someone simply using that mask. The working idea became not departure, but rendezvous. Phoebe may have come to meet someone, but no confirmation followed. If she left with another, it was unseen. If she exited alone, there is no trace. This episode divided the public. Some said she ran. Others, she was let out, leaving no mark. On the 3rd day of reviewing the footage, one investigator told a journalist, "We keep searching for a disappearance, but this isn't disappearance. It's a rupture. There was someone, and then nothing. Everything between feels only like a shadow." The investigation entered a phase where detectives searched not for what was present, but for what was missing. Because if the cameras were to be believed, Phoebe was in the airport. And if the facts were to be believed, she was never there at all. On the 4th day after her disappearance, March 7th at 1:30 p.m., police received a call from a night guard in Bundaberg's southern industrial zone. He had noticed a car oddly parked by a disused hangar. An old Honda Civic sat under the sun, coated in dust, as though it had been abandoned for days. The doors closed, but unlocked. No alarm, no visible license plates. Inside, a sharp odor of vinegar and melted plastic. This vehicle would become the first true object of examination, not just inference. Model, Honda Civic sedan. Production, between 2002 and 2005. Color, metallic gray, but badly faded. The number plates were gone. At the brackets, scratches, fresh, suggesting bolts removed in haste. Beneath a seat, police found a torn wrapper, the packaging of a standard license plate frame, meaning the car once carried plates, but they had been stripped before abandonment. The first detail investigators noted was the interior, not merely clean in the domestic sense, but forensic clean. No crumbs, no trash, no hair, not even dust on the dashboard. Everything had been wiped. An investigator described it. It's as if they weren't washing a car, but erasing the memory that anyone had ever been inside. Forensic units took over. The inspection lasted nearly 7 hours. With lamps and reagents, faint traces were revealed in the trunk. Biological residue, fibers of fabric, pollen, microparticles of skin. But the DNA profiles proved unstable, damaged by chemicals. The compartment had been treated with a solution of bleach and vinegar. From the car's interior, several items were recovered. A pair of black folding handcuffs, unmarked. A folding knife, 9-centimeter blade, partly rusted. A strip of black tape wound around a plastic card. White, blank, no chip. A notebook left in the glove box. Nearly all pages blank, except for a single line on the final sheet. I am not who you think I am. The handwriting was large, angular, pressed with force, straight lines, as though rehearsed or controlled, but no prints, no oils, no trace of a hand. Experts noted the arrangement. The cuffs and knife placed in the rear compartment, positioned almost to be seen. The notebook set precisely. The tape hidden more carelessly, wedged between lining. The impression was unmistakable, not a crime, but the staging of one, more theater than evidence. And still, the critical question remained, had Phoebe ever been inside this car? Formally, no proof, no fingerprints, no DNA. But one element forced investigators to pause. Beneath the handbrake, between the seats, lay half of a small pin, shaped like a wing. The other half, identical, appeared on Phoebe's backpack in school photographs. A trinket she had made herself in design class the year before. Her mother confirmed. She wore it always, sometimes on her pack, sometimes on her cap. The fragment recovered was incomplete, edges scorched, as if burned at one side. It did not prove Phoebe was inside, but it tied her to the object. The first material link to surface at all. Investigators set out 3 working theories. 1. The car was transport. Phoebe had been inside, her traces scrubbed. She was taken somewhere else. But then, why leave the broken pin? 2. The car was planted. Someone wanted it found. Pseudo-evidence left behind, not to prove, but to mislead. 3. The car was part of an escape. Someone helped Phoebe leave, dressing the scene as if she had been taken. And under that cover, she disappeared. The stolen car angle was checked. Negative. The Civic was not listed as missing, but the VIN number on the engine had been altered. Partly legible, and it traced back to Brisbane. Registered once more to the same name, Tammy Hall. That tied 2 points together. The false rental of the house. The car with Phoebe's fragment inside. An investigator wrote in the report, "We do not know if Phoebe was in this vehicle, but someone very much wanted us to believe she was." Just as in the house, no chaos, no sign of panic, no rush. But each object lay as a suggestion, not as proof. Here the case first invoked a new phrase: suppressed presence. The sense that a person leaves traces, but leaves them in such a way that there is too little to trust. Phoebe did not merely vanish. The traces she left looked as if they had been edited. When police shifted from analyzing evidence to questioning people, they entered what investigators privately call the fog phase. The moment an inquiry loses footing, dates, objects, technical data remain, but no human witness can hold steady. Accounts appear, fracture, collapse in contradictions. Phoebe Bishop's disappearance fell into that fog almost immediately. The first, Harry Doyle, neighbor, 2 houses from 29 BI, out of work since 2019, small offenses on record, alcohol, noise at night. He was recalled for questioning. Confident, he said, "Yes, I saw the car, gray. Evening of the 2nd, looked like a Honda. A girl in a hood. She went into the house. A man stayed in the car. Then he drove off, 15 minutes later." But when the camera was switched on, the story shifted. Or maybe it was the 3rd, or daytime, I'm not sure. That week was all a blur. The flash drive from his gate camera, which might have confirmed details. Dead. No copies. No one to verify him. Next was Catherine McGraw, 68, widow. Former teacher, lived directly opposite 29 BI. She told officers, "At first I thought teenagers had broken in. I heard doors slam a couple of times. But that was February, maybe the 1st. I don't know." Asked if she had seen Phoebe. "Hard to tell these kids apart now. There was a girl, but maybe not her. Clothes all look the same." Later, on television, she would claim she saw her being dragged inside. But in police records, those words were never spoken. Investigators noted, statements to media do not match statements under protocol. Then, Dominic Farrell, renter next door, 26, auto shop worker, quiet, lived alone. To appearance, uninvolved. But under interview he said, "I didn't even know anyone stayed there. Well, maybe once. One night, I heard music. Quiet. Very quiet. And then it stopped. After a minute. When pressed, the 29th or 30th, I was trying to sleep. It was raining." No other neighbor heard it, but the date he gave aligned precisely with Phoebe's last recorded activity online. And then there was another witness, a neighbor on the street, Chelsea Howell, 22, student. She insisted she had definitely seen Phoebe outside the house 3 days before the disappearance. "I know her. We had classes together a year ago. I remember her. She was sitting on the curb, smoking, looking at her phone. It was evening. The moon was out. I remember that." Asked to sketch the scene, she marked the spot with surprising accuracy, including 2 plastic crates later found in the garage. She had not known they existed, but she could not give a date, only that it was a few days before. So the case held 4 witnesses, and yet none aligned. Timelines drifted, statements blurred, investigators summarized in their notes. Neighbors either paid little attention or have filled memory with guesses. Key elements repeat: car, hood, solitary presence, evening, but no element confirms itself twice. And then came a 5th. This one did not speak, but wrote. A letter slipped into the mailbox of police headquarters, unsigned, ordinary notebook paper. The message: "You are searching in the wrong place. The house is not hers. She was never really there. She lived elsewhere. The lease is cover. Ask about the truck that left at 3:30 a.m. on the 2nd night." No fingerprints, standard paper stock. The handwriting, female, neat, without pressure. Compared with the note in the recovered car notebook, not the same, but it gave the investigation a new point of focus: the truck.